I just passed 200 hours on this bike, so it's time for a 200-hour update. Thanks for tuning in to Dirt Biking with Donnie and Chase. I'm Donnie, and this is my 2018 KTM 250 XCW. I just got over 200 hours on the bike, 203 to be exact, and it's time for an update. I'll point out first that this is the carbureted model. 2018 was the first year you could get a TPI version of this bike in the US, but this is the carb model. The 2017 and 2018 XCWs had a lot going for them because they benefited from some of the preparations KTM was making for future TPI bikes. For example, the 2017 and 2018 bikes have a counterbalancer that virtually eliminates all engine vibration. The 17 and 18 models also have the upgraded starter design that's much more reliable than the previous design, and the 18 model got more reliable Bendix bushings. I've occasionally added some lubrication to the flywheel and Bendix bushings, but I haven't had any issues in over 200 hours of service with this starter. It's clear that KTM was changing their starter design in preparation to get rid of kickstarters on future bikes, but this bike still has a kickstart, so that's really good as a backup. In a previous video I talked about the pros and cons of this bike, so in this video I'm going to primarily focus on repairs and related topics that would apply to 200 hours of service on the bike. This bike has been very reliable over that period of time, with most repairs being maintenance related, but here's a list of repairs I've made to the bike. I'll start with the things I don't consider maintenance. In the first couple of months I really struggled to get the stock Mikuni carburetor to perform well. I installed a JD Jet kit and adjusted the float level, but I just couldn't get it to run well consistently. After several weeks of frustration, I ended up buying a Kickstand 38mm Air Striker carb from JD Jetting. That mod immediately solved my carburation and jetting issues. In addition to the carburetor, I installed a V4R recage, as the stock recage had warped areas and gaps. I got frustrated with the stock clutch early on and installed Henson clutch plates and discs, but I think I was just a little impatient there. The clutch was dragging and it was difficult to find neutral, but when these bikes are new, the transmissions are really tight and not very smooth. Now that it has some hours on it, the transmission is buttery smooth. I really like the Henson clutch, but if it ever wears out, I'll probably just stick the stock plates and discs back in there. The kickstand is something you wouldn't normally think about needing to maintain, but I did a whole video on kickstand maintenance for these bikes. I'll put a link to that video in the description. I did have to put a new Tusk kickstand on the bike because the pivot point got misshapen and the swing arm was hitting the kickstand. Other repairs that I've done are more maintenance related. I replaced the piston and rings at 106 hours. I have it around 100 hours on the second top end now, and I'm checking compression every so often. But so far the compression is exactly the same as it was when I replaced the top end, so I'm going to let that go a little while longer. I replaced the rear wheel bearings once, along with the spacers. The front wheel bearings are original and still in good shape, and yes, they have over 200 hours on them. I've replaced brakes and tires more times than I can count, and I think I'm on my fourth set of plastics, but that just comes with racing. Most of my plastic changes have been for the look rather than being broken beyond use. I got almost 200 hours out of the original chain. I've replaced the front sprocket 3 or 4 times, and I've replaced the rear sprocket twice. I should mention that I do have 2 different rear wheel setups, so it's difficult to say exactly how much time is on each rear sprocket. I've serviced the swing arm bearings and the steering stem bearings a couple of times. I've had the suspension serviced twice by Steve down at Fast Lap Racing Suspension. The valving on my forks is still stopped, but he did tweak the valving on the rear shock to fit my riding style. And of course, I service all the fluids regularly. Would I buy this bike again? Absolutely. I love this bike, and it's been a very reliable race bike and a great trail bike. I spent a considerable amount of time tweaking it to my liking, and I'm very comfortable on the bike. I know how it's going to react to steering, throttle response, shifting, braking. Part of that's because it's a very well handling, predictable bike to ride, and part of that's because I've spent over 200 hours on it. I look at new bikes all the time down at Max Motorsports, but when I think about the amount of effort that I put into this bike and how well it fits me, I just walk back to the parts counter with a sense of contentment. during the next 12 months, I plan to put another 100 hours on this bike. So I'll do a 300-hour update when we get there. But between now and then, I plan to put at least 50 new videos on the channel. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. If you have comments or questions about this bike, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Should I go higher? Oh yeah, that's perfect. Oh, almost forgot. The purple power band is the one you want. Don't let anybody tell you the red one or the pink one. The purple one is the good one, and make sure you've got a backup.